Yo, good morning, my patrons. Today we're going to go over chapter 5 of Outwitting the Devil. We're out in nature enjoying this moment. So we're going to go over this. Now, there are a couple of important things about this chapter. One, we're going to cover in this chapter flattery. We're also going to cover egotism and vanity. We will also cover propaganda. And we will also cover how to escape from, how to begin your escape from the clutches of the devil. So let's go ahead and get started on how we're going to get through this. Now, the first thing that he starts talking about here in chapter 5 is how he uses repetition to trick the devil and to get the point across so that all of us can have a deeper understanding of what the devil really is and what a drifter really is. He goes that this interview will continue until you have supplied me with the weapon that will eventually free people from your control. So this is what this portion is really about, is getting you ready for that. That he wants the devil to give out the formula that will break down the barriers so that people can begin to outwit the devil for themselves and be able to change your life and not live your life in fear. He tells the devil that you fear the truth and nothing else. For this reason, it is slowly but definitely giving human beings freedom from all manners of fear. Recognizing that fear is the primary thing as to why people are captured and stuck by the devil. Okay? And the devil admits that this is true. And he asks him, why do you continue to ask me that? He said, because of the power of repetition, the power of repetition. If I sound repetitive, if this book sounds repetitive, it is because the more you hear something, the more it becomes part of you, it becomes ingrained in you. And if I'm shivering a little bit, it is because it's cold out here a little bit. Okay? So he tells the devil to go ahead and confess why you are powerless to stop him from forcing this confession out of it. And this is vital. This is the very important confession of the devil. And I want you guys to hear this part. He said that you know that I exist only in the minds of people who have fears. You know that I control only the drifters who neglect to use their own minds. You know that my hell is here on earth. Hell is here on earth and not in the world that comes after death. You know that I am a principle or form of energy which expresses the negative side of matter and energy. You know you have become my master because you have mastered your fears. He says that I cannot control you because you have discovered your own mind and you have taken charge of it. This is why the confession was wringed from the devil. This is also why Napoleon Hill was able to grow by leaps and bounds after this manuscript was written. You have to understand, he wrote the laws of success first. Then he wrote this manuscript of Outwitting the Devil, and then he wrote Think and Grow Rich. If you listen to the first part of these videos on Outwitting the Devil, you know that his life was in turmoil. He didn't think he was fit to be able to teach leadership, to be able to teach how to become wealthy. He didn't think that he was running from gangsters. He had lost his family. He was destitute. But it was after writing this manuscript that allowed him to write Think and Grow Rich, which became his most popular selling book of all time and is one of the most popular books of all time. So understand that the control of your own mind and your own thoughts are vital for your success, for your ability to live out a heaven on earth, not a hell on earth. So he can say that, and Napoleon Hill states that truth is the one and only thing in the world that can stand ridicule. And then after that, he asks the devil, what is one of your greatest tricks? And this is where he starts to talk about flattery. He says flattery is one of my most useful weapons. That once you understand the concept of flattery, you'll understand how the devil utilizes this tool in order to entrap you, to get you always chasing things that you can't have, always feeling like your life is empty, never having that mental control over your life. So he talks about that, how it's a powerful weapon. It has a power pulling qualities because it operates through two of the most common human weaknesses, which is vanity and egotism. And it is the best rope. Flattery will capture you every time, especially, and he talks about how, understand, this was written in 1938. Men were generally the ones who worked, women were the ones who stayed at home. Women were looked more upon as arm candy sex objects. They were looked upon as mothers, wives, not so much in the business world as we do today. They weren't given equal or fair treatment. So in the world of flattery, he gets into how men can be mastered through flattery but not through sex appeal. and that he teaches flattery to both men and women. He uses flattery towards a woman to tell her that she looks good in a dress and tell her that her clothes fit her well. Those are kind of like the only descriptions that he used. But we know those still work today. You tell a woman how good she looks in an outfit and she purrs like a kitten. You tell a man that he is like, his term, a Herculean body, and that he's a great businessman, and you know his egotism gets the best of him. So vanity and flattery still work. We just have to understand how it works in today's society, so that we can not become susceptible to it. But he talks about in the part of egotism that is so vital in understanding, and this works both for men and women. I know, like I said, he wrote this book when there was a clear separation of the two in society of how we live, but now those lines have blurred. But even in the blurring of those lines, there are still just biological things that still work. You tell any person about how good they look, and they usually will become susceptible to the vanity, but also the egotism of telling somebody that they are amazing. But here's the thing. And he said this is the type of woman, but this works for men and women. He said the type of woman you perhaps have in mind never sells a man herself, or anything she can give him. Instead, she sells him his own egotism. I want you to think about that. I can't tell you everything about me, but I would just say this. In certain fields of work that I worked in, the influence wasn't the fact that I sold people on me and what I could do for them. The influence was selling people on their own egotism, their own stuff they already have, things they already do, accomplishments, floating their ego, as we like to say. That it wasn't, I didn't get in with these people because I was just so amazing myself. I got in because they saw that I appreciated where they already were, and they saw that I had a talent to help them get to the next level. And that it was a way of getting in, working through their egotism. So, and that can work for both men and women, okay? Of utilizing their egotism, not selling them on me and my talents, but selling them on their own talents that they have. It's like coming up to somebody and selling them on the house that they already own and making them feel good about the house that they already own, right? And then they feel like you've done them a great service by selling them on the house that they already own. So he asked the devil to tell him some of his other tricks. Oh yeah, and I forgot to tell you this part in the beginning. Failure is the other issue that we're going to talk about. And he said that one of his most effective, like a hawk out here, one of his most effective tools is failure. Now there's a paradox when we talk about failure here. There's a huge paradox. You see, there are many people who fail all the time. There are people who have failed and with less talent than others. But the trick here is that the people who outwit the devil are the ones who utilize failure as a vehicle to move forward, utilize failure as a teaching tool, something that allows them to be able to grow beyond where they were, who looks at failure and say, okay, this is another way I've learned how not to do it, right? This is another way I've learned how not to be in a relationship. This is a way I've learned how not to run a business, a way I've learned how not to have friendships, how not to take care of my health. It's a person who understands that concept and recognize that every failure is just a stepping stone of learning are the ones who succeed. Now, he uses Thomas Edison as an example in here. I like to think about the Wright brothers. The Wright brothers were bicyclists who used failure to propel them to the state of being able to build the first manned flight in America. And they did this with less money, right? They did this with less money than most people. They did this with less knowledge than most people, but they were inspired, and their inspiration allowed them to inspire their team, and that propelled them to build that plane. Now, others gave up as soon as they found out. As soon as they heard the Wright brothers had succeeded, they gave up because they weren't first. As soon as they heard that the Wright brothers succeeded before them, they gave up because they weren't the ones who did it. Instead of going to them and say, I see what you've done now, I want to now improve upon what you've done. They gave up, they quit. He talks about how Edison continued, even though people were more talented than him, but he continued. We know Edison worked on the light bulb 1,000 some odd times before it was finally, his team finally got it right. And once his team got it right, then it was like they moved on to the next thing. The same thing with Henry Ford, you know. And there's so many, anybody who you can look at who have achieved any level of greatness have had a great equal level of failure occur in his life. Matter of fact, he specifically says that those who have anytime you find somebody who has succeeded, you can find an equal level of failure within their lives. So if you are on this low end of failure, then if you learn from this super low end, then you will propel yourself up the polarity scale to the opposite high end of that, right? So, but most people, they fail here and they stop. They give up. They take whatever's given to them and they stop. Okay. So, and that's the paradox of it, because failure is a teaching tool, but failure is also a tool that the devil can use to stop you. You fail 2, 3, 4 times and you quit, whereas those who persist on succeed and outwit the devil. All right. Now, then he talks about propaganda and how propaganda is his other tool that he got. Since this was 1938, Europe was going into war again after having the World War I, you know, the Great War. Now it's 1938. It looks like they're getting ready to go into war again because Hitler is on the rise, Mussolini is on the rise, you know. So all these things are going on. And he said that he uses propaganda to get people killing on a wholesale level. I want to put something in right here. Hitler never thought he was wrong for what he was doing. He thought he was doing the right thing for the world. Mussolini thought he was doing the right thing for the world. Eisenhower thought they were doing the right thing for the world. Roosevelt thought he was doing the right thing for the world. I forgot the Japanese emperor at the time, but he thought he was doing the right thing for the world. Everybody in this time frame and everybody in today's world think that they're doing the right thing for the world. Believe it or not, Trump believes he's doing the right thing for America. Obama believed he was doing the right thing for America. Bush believed he was doing the right thing for America. Clinton believed he was doing the right thing for America. All these people, the KKK people, think they're doing the right thing for the world and America. Everybody thinks that they're doing the right thing for the world and the right thing for their own country or their own group or whatever it is for their own tribe. They never think that they're doing the wrong thing because the propaganda that they have accepted convinces them that they are doing the right thing. And this is one of the tools of the devil, because how can the right thing for one group that directly opposes the next group be the right thing, period? It can't be. It cannot be. It can't be right. The Jews, of course, didn't feel like that the Nazi was doing the right thing. The black Germans didn't think the Nazis were doing the right thing. The gypsies didn't think the Nazis were doing the right thing. The handicapped people and their families didn't think that the Nazis were doing the right thing. They were directly opposed to it, yet the Nazis thought that they were doing the right thing. So it again is another paradox, and that's what propaganda creates. It creates this paradox between people where everybody thinks they're the ones that's doing right. The Republicans, the Democrats, they both think that they're doing the right thing. But that's how propaganda works. It injects that false information, that false sense of information right in front of you. You can know it is. Propaganda works when you choose to ignore truth. Remember earlier in the beginning, he said truth is the one and only thing in the world that can stand ridicule. Truth is just truth. There are those who say that the black man is less human. Then there are those who are black who say the white man is less human. There are those who said that these are the children of God, and there are those who said that though we are the children of God. There are those who say that, you know, this religion is right and that religion is right. And there are those who say that this form of economics is right and that form of economics is right. But at the end of the day, what is truth? What is truth? Now, some of those things are perspective and where you grew up, but truth is truth. If I peel back the skin of every human being, we all the same. You're still a human being. If I look at you from a hermetic stance, we're all energy. So if we're all energy, then skin tone, skin color, melanin, lack of melanin, all those kind of things don't matter. They don't matter at all, because matter truly doesn't exist. Energy exists. So propaganda can't stand against absolute truths. So unless we look at things from an absolute truth point first, then we will always fall for the propaganda of whatever is being taught by our nation, by our tribe, by whatever it is. We'll fall for it. until we understand. And that's why he said it comes through the motion pictures, it comes from the pulpits, it comes from the news and world, it comes from the politicians, it comes from everywhere, the business people, it comes from every aspect that he uses propaganda in order to get people fighting one another. As long as people fight, right, then there's always something to fear. As long as there's fighting, there's always something to be angered about. So he uses those as tricks and tools, right? Of course, he talked about how his best boys are out there working to try to take over America through the ballot. You know that America cannot be taken over through bullets, but through the ballot, America can be taken over. And some will say that they look at our current political situation here in 2018 and say that, yes, this is true. Look at what we got in office. Look at the Republicans and the Democrats, and look at the fighting, and look at the state of people. But then there are others who can drive around my city that I'm living in right now, Atlanta, and see all the construction going on and all the business that's being developed, and say that, well, the country's on a rise, the country's on a high, where you can go to another part of the country and be like, the country's on a low. So propaganda is a tool to cause people to be disgruntled so that you can be set up for, as they say, set up for the okie doke, right? So he got people going into this, you know, this mindset of utilizing propaganda, and it's exactly what it is. It's purely propaganda, lies, untruths, half-truths, or it's truth wrapped in a lie. So it's there to keep you fighting against yourself and fighting against those around you. All right. And he talks about what is fear of the devil except propaganda. Except propaganda. If you go back into ancient times, if you go back into the times of Yeshua, the times of Buddha, the times of the ancient Greeks, Romans, go back, there was never this salvation thought process. Everybody made their way into some level of an afterlife. That there was no this gnashing and tormenting didn't occur until the Romans took over Christianity. Before that, this idea wasn't there. But now that has been such a popular propaganda that people live in fear every day of what's going to happen to them in their perceived afterlife of going to hell with the devil, when clearly the devil says that hell is here on earth. And the thing about it, if you read most of those books, we create our own hell, and that hell is here anyhow, because it's what we created. If you think about it, we have enough food on the planet to feed everybody. We have enough water on the planet for everybody to consume. We have enough shelter for everybody to not live outside. We have enough clothing for everybody to not be cold. We have enough, but we create hell on earth because we want to allow that type of mentality to pervade the entire planet. The planetary consciousness is just not there. There's too much greed and control and selfishness involved. So, but the most damaging thing about propaganda is that he is created and germinated in the minds of people, and at the end of the day, the devil convinces you that the propagandist statements, the propagandist thoughts are your own ideas, that they're your own thoughts, and then that keeps you stuck in that format, and that makes you think that you're right because you thought of it according to your own brain. Now you talk about how does he convert humans into propagandists and lure them into the self-imprisonment. And he said he makes his first entry into an individual's mind by bribing them. And he asked them what kind of bribes. He said that I use bribes of things most people want. So he goes down this whole list. He bribes them with love, the thirst for sex expression, covetousness of money, the obsessive desire to gain something for nothing, gambling, vanity in women, egotism in men, even though we know that clearly both men and women deal with that one. There's a whole bunch of them. Desire to imitate others, desire for perpetual life after death, a desire for physical food. So it's a big list. And he said through any combination of these, he's able to enter the minds of any human being from the time that they come into the world by bribing you with the things that you want the most. I don't want to use the term desire, but the term things you want, because if you're always in wanting, you're always trying to get it, then you ignore accurate thinking. But if you're in a state of true desire, then your accurate thinking comes into play. Okay. So remember, this book was written 70 plus years ago, so some of the thought process, some of the language is a little bit different. But he said, what happened when you try to occupy the mind of a person who is not yet in the habit of drifting? He said he begins to immediately occupy that person's mind where he can master it. He intensifies the desire and induces him to go after money or whatever it is. And then he talks about, what if somebody tricks you and they're able to get the money? Then he says then he finds other things, other vices that person may have, and induce them into drifting through that method. We've seen plenty of people who became, successful and attain money, but then other vices cause them to self-destruct. So we've seen that so many times before. But you start feeding with other things that money can buy, make them splurge, and that greed comes in. And then they start overindulging in sex and food and all these other kind of things. So basically, the devil just continues to use anything that he possibly can to get you to drift. But he once says, one thing said, the non-drifter takes from life what he wants, and on his own terms, where the drifter takes things based on whatever terms somebody else given. And that's the trick. We got to learn how to be definiteness in our purpose, so that we do not take on things unless it is on our terms. That's how we outwit the devil, that we go after what we want, but on our terms, not on what the world says we should do and how we should do, but how we decide for it to do. It's be definite in everything you do, and never leave unfinished thoughts in your mind. Form the habit of reaching definite decisions on all subjects. Now, there was a part that I disagreed on. I'm here to real quick. He says that talks about how after a certain age the habit can't be broken. Well, I don't believe that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I believe you can teach an old dog new tricks. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can still learn how to be a better lover, a better father, better mother. You can always learn how to be better at anything. So the fact that you may be drifting now, no matter what age, you can stop. So let's get with it.